Tell you what we'll do is we will hear some more comment on House Bill 4 to start with. We have good Senator Barlow who would like to talk to us about House Bill 4. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I appreciate the indulgence of the committee. I know there's a mix of bills up before you right now, and I haven't had a chance, Mr. Chairman, to visit with the Department of Revenue and the assessors and treasurers on this issue yet. So, but as we've been talking through these different bills and how we make them applicable, House Bill 4 is a property tax refund program, which means someone has to pay their taxes before they can actually be refunded. And it seems like to me we're pre-funding these things. There ought to be a way we can actually make that refund. They're eligible for it. We can actually, even though it's a year before, we could actually have a new set point and actually have those funds distributed from the Department of Revenue directly to the county, so that there is no pay one, you pay yours, then we pay you back. Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to figure out how that would be done. It's obviously a new structure in the bill. We've got all weekend to contemplate it on it, but I just wanted to throw it out to the committee, kind of give the public a fair chance to know that at least there's a discussion about trying to make that program, particularly, Mr. Chairman, because we're with the proposal in the House Bill 4 that's before us, the engrossed version. This will be expanded to more folks. More folks will be eligible for this. And I think that with that potential, this might even be more applicable to have some kind of a little different flow of the funds. So anyway, Mr. Chairman, that's kind of what I'm contemplating. And like I said, I will visit with those relevant county officials and state partners that may give us some suggestions and may say, it just doesn't work quite as well. But I truly understand we're really talking about a prospective look at this process instead of a somewhat retrospective look at it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stand for any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for the good senator? Yeah, Senator Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Barlow, we kind of had a little discussion before we got here with you and others trying to figure this out with the LSO. Maybe the Department of Revenue can add some insight to this too. But like the good senator said here, we're trying to figure out a way where they, like you said, you pay first and then you get your refund later. If you can avoid that layer, LSO said that they had a little bit of struggle with that, being that it's based on income and how you'd have to determine that from year to year. So just thought I'd get that discussion out there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the interesting thing is when your property tax are calculated, they're based on January 1st. Well, you can do your previous year's income as well, obviously for that previous year. And we're basically coming to, a December 31st versus January 1st type of a point potentially. So I don't know that it's completely out of the realm, but anyway, I'm just throwing it out there as a potential to consider. I'm not trying to upset the apple cart. I want this bill to be effective, but maybe there's a way to improve it by not having this exchange. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Give us something to chew on over the weekend, and hopefully we can get some more public testimony as to whether or not that's even feasible or not, so you can have an amendment for us on Monday if possible. Thank you, Senator. All right, any more public comment on House Bill 4, the property tax refund program?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I told you I'd be back. Bill Winnie, Sublette County. I wanted to talk specifically about the quirk in the system that the good senator just spoke to. And it strikes me that if a person can demonstrate they'd be eligible for the refund, you have your income taxes from the previous year, things like that, your 1040 or whatever, that the refund ought to be held in abeyance. In other words, they don't have to pay it. They hold that amount in abeyance, and then when the refund comes due, that abeyance amount is zeroed out or something along those lines. They'd have to show that they'd be eligible. I got it. But we all fill out 1040s, and I would think that would be sufficient. Subject to your questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winnie. Any questions? Appreciate it, sir. Miss Director Henson, why don't you come on up? Thank you so much for coming back for us.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Brenda Henson, Director of the Department of Revenue, and with me I have Christy Urick, who is the Administrator of the Administrative Services Division. I did have a handout that I'm hoping all of you have in front of you, just to try and kind of wrap our head around where we're at on this. I mentioned Christy Urick. Just so you know, Christy Urick is also the division within the Department of Revenue that collected over $3.44 billion in fiscal year 23, collects those monies, distributes those monies to all the taxing entities with her 8 staff members, and then also took on the expansion of the property tax refund program. Just to kind of let the committee know, in 2019, we had a total of 1,587 applications. 2020, the program wasn't funded. In 2021, 4,395. With the expansion to 125% of median household income in 2022 refunds, we had over 8,800 that received refunds and over 9,000 that applied. So what I'm saying to you is, as we continue to look at this program and the expansion, I'm going to be asking for some money at the end of this conversation, but I'm just planting the seed right now. The handout that you have before you, the first thing I want to do is go over with current law, what is happening with this program. So on the very first page of your document, you'll see the colored columns, and you'll see 2022 median incomes. Those are median household incomes for the state of Wyoming. And then in the next column, you'll see the 2023. We received that information from Economic Analysis, and we just got those February 6th. When you look at the far right-hand column, you'll see the percentage increase or decrease of median household income in each of the 23 counties. You'll find that there are 2 counties that actually went down, Carbon County and Washakie County. Those household incomes went down. But you'll also see in Lincoln County, that value went up 21.5%, and in Teton County, 19.7%. The other thing on this page that I want to point out is that those counties that are gray in that first column, the way the statute reads is we use the median household income, but if your county's household income is less than the statewide median income, then you get to use the statewide. So everything that's in gray would use that top column. So there are 15 counties out of 23 that instead of their household income, they would use that median, that 73,920. We only have 7 counties that are higher than that. So with that being said, the statewide median household income went up 6.9% from 2022 to 2023. The reason this is important is that it's 2023 property taxes that will be refunding this year in 2024. Now, when you turn the page, now we're going to talk about the other piece of this on the financial side, the 2023 median residential tax amounts. So as we look at the 23 median tax amounts, just for your information, there were 5 counties that had single-digit increases, percentage-wise, when you looked at 2022 medians to 2023. And those 5 counties that had single-digit were Goshen, Natrona, Platte, Sweetwater, and Uinta. We then had 6 counties that had over a 20% increase in that median residential tax bill. Those are Bighorn, Johnson, Lincoln, Niobrara, Sublette, and Teton. What I'm saying is that not only are we going to have more people that qualify for this benefit because of income increasing, but the amount of the checks that we're going to be sending out are going to be higher this year, just based on the way the law is currently. So now let's go back to House Bill 4. The top page shows what the median household income is, and then in blue, 125%. So for 15 of the Wyoming counties, 92,400, that's current law. What this bill does is add the 145% of median household income and the 165%, and I'm working from the engrossed version. So at this point, the benefit would go to that 121,968. Now, for some of the other counties, as you look down the list, so 165%. When we look anything that's above the 121,968, those are the counties that the 152 in Lincoln County, the 203,643. Those are the ones that will be newcomers to this program should this bill pass. We looked at, the only thing we've got is some numbers that economic analysis provided to us that looked at how many households in Wyoming are in those certain income categories. Now, we don't know if they're homeowners or if they'll qualify based on income, but what we do know is based on those numbers and the 125%, we know how many applications were approved last year. And if we use that same analysis, we estimate with this new expanded program that we'll see approximately 2431. It's on the very last page. And we've done the analysis per county on approximately how many new applicants we'll have if we expand it to this 165%, which is about 30% more applications than what we had in 2022 refunds. The process of adding the two tiers, we do have a system. We have a computer system that was written by Enterprise Technology Services. That's the only way we can process all these applications. Typically, we have applications printed and sent out to all the county treasurers, and we're ready to go on April 1st. Right now, we're holding up sending those applications to the printers because we're not sure what this program looks like right now until this is decided. The other thing I've got for concern is the programming. ETS is indicated that it will take 3 weeks to do the programming to add these tiers, and then we've got to test it. Then we've got to see if everything calculates as indicated in the statute. So if this were to pass and be signed into law, the middle of March, I don't think we're going to be able to have applications out for property owners until at least the middle of April. The date for applying for this refund is the first Monday in June. So it doesn't give a lot of turnaround time to get the new word out and for folks to apply. We had mentioned back in October when this bill was sponsored by the committee that, perhaps if we add the tiers, would it be possible to have that go into effect for 2025, which would be for 2024 refunds, so that for this year, we can get the ball rolling and start taking applications under current law. Just something for the committee to consider. The other thing I would ask, it's about $10,000 that ETS E is wanting for us to update our program to accommodate the new tiers. And I had asked in the fiscal note for 2 temporary employees to help us to process these, because they really do require numerous phone conversations assisting these folks. We really appreciate the assistance of county treasurers across the state, but we're the ones that are processing all the applications. So we're the ones that get the call to say, did you get my follow-up documentation? Did you get my application? Do you know when you're going to get the checks sent out? Those are all phone calls that we have to. So we had asked for $60,000 for temporary help. So that's a total fiscal impact of $70,000 to get this going for this year.
Director, can I interrupt real quick?
Yes, please.
If we decided to delay it to 25, would you still need the 70,000 to set it up, or would that go away?
Mr. Chairman, we'll still need the 70,000.
Okay,
It just gives us time.
okay.
And Mr. Chairman, related to the concept of not administering this as a refund, but a somehow paid in advance, that is definitely something we have not considered and would take some further discussion. I'd be happy to discuss that with the good senator. I understand the philosophy behind that. One of the things that needs to be noted is people sell homes. And so, you know, this program says you owned the home, you paid the property tax in a timely manner, and if you qualify based on the income and the asset test, then we're going to give you 75% of your tax bill up to the median residential tax bill amount. First, we don't know what that median tax bill amount is until after tax roll, which is not until September of that tax year. So we would know it then, but we don't know that median before they pay their bill. There's just a lot of moving parts that, can it be done? Absolutely. You know, if there wanted to be a way of somehow prepaying it. I will tell you that many of our applicants, they receive this refund no later than the 30th of September. That by law is when we have to have those out. First half payment on property taxes due November 10th. So in many cases, they're using this refund to pay the following year taxes. So just something to consider.
Good to know. Any questions for the director? Or Ms. Urick? Do you have anything to add? She nailed it, as always.
Yep.
Thank you, Director.
Mr. Chairman, in any discussion that you may have about if you qualify for one program, do you qualify for the other program? This really is a different piece. This is a refund of taxes that were already paid. So in my mind, there's a possibility that this could still be in place as it exists. If we have homestead exemptions, if we have caps, those are all taken care of before this happens. So they've paid less money. So I would anticipate the refunds that we issue would be less should those exemptions pass for 2024. 2023 is a done deal. And that's what we'll be administering this year. But just a point of clarification.
Excellent stuff. Thank you. Senator Ide has a question before we let you
Thank you,
go.
Chairman Beitman. Director, you gave us some stats here. The first one was you had approximately 1,500 applicants. Which year was that? And then the next number, and then I think the last one was 2022, where it went up to 8,800. Could you give those dates again on that?
Sure.
And how long, do you have any numbers from before that, or when did all of the, I don't even know when this refund program started and what it looks like going backwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Director?
Chairman Beitman, Senator Ide, we do have statistics back to the beginning of the program. The state started administering this program back in 2003. And we can provide those.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Ide, the numbers that I had available were 2019, 1,587 applications. The program was not funded for 2020 taxes. 2021, we were at 4,395. 2022 is when the statute changed and went from 75% of median household income up to 125% of median household income, and that's what doubled the program.
Quick follow-up.
Yeah, Senator Wright.
You said it wasn't funded in 2020. Could you tell us the story behind that? Thank you.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Ide, you may recall 2020, 2021, the state of Wyoming was cutting budgets everywhere, including the property tax refund program.
We were looking under the cushions for pennies at that time. All right. Thank you, department. Great stuff. Okay. Anybody else wish to comment on House Bill 4, property tax refund program? Welcome to revenue.
Thank you, Chairman Biden, or Biden, members of the committee. I'm Shane Taylor. I am the administrator of the tax. Just a couple of questions. When it comes to the amendment, first thing that comes to mind is the staff is concerned with that. With this number of applications that and 13 resulted in, sorry about that, resulted in refunds. My question is that with the periodic and random review, did you have expectations of what that would look like for the Department of Audit? Like how many reviews would you expect us to do to administer this program and things like that?
Well, Mr. Taylor, we, as the Revenue Committee, didn't consider this. This came on the, looks like a third reading amendment.
Right, it was late for us.
Yeah, so I really don't have much to say other than we could probably take the knives to this sucker when we start working the bill. So
Right.
this thing might not even be part of the bill when we get done with it. But if it is, we'll talk to you about it.
Right, perfect, thank you.
Continue on, sir, if you got anything else.
And that's my biggest concern is how we'd staff this and how we would allocate appropriate resources to administer this. And that's my biggest concern is how I'm gonna administer it if this passes with that in there.
And do you have an idea of how many you might need if this were to stay in the bill?
I did some just preliminary numbers based on 2022 of the 8,800 refunds. I mean, if you did them all, even if it took you an hour, that's 8,800 hours. That's 2 or 3 staff members for an entire year. If you did, say, I'll just use a 3% number because that's what we're mandated to do for FDRP audits for the state of Wyoming. With this number, that would be about 270-ish audits, or with the increase of possible applications, maybe 300 plus. So we would be talking considerable staff hours for that. I don't know the depth of these reviews and what they would require without having more discussions with Director Henson and Department of Revenue and things like that, if they were gonna take 8 to 10 hours per review, depending on the depth. I mean, you have their application here, and if we're going to do a full audit and actually check into their bank accounts and their investments and other real estate and motor vehicles and things like that, it might be fairly time consuming to get some of that information. So it's kind of hard for me to estimate that at this time, but anywhere from 4,900 hours, 2,400 hours, 1 to 2 staff for a full year.
Like a lot of work for not a lot of money.
Right.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? Yeah, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, what methodology you use when you do an audit like this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator McKeon, Chairman Bateman, we have not had an audit program where we even deal in this type of an audit. What we currently do is sales and use tax, tobacco tax, fuel tax, and FDRP audits. So we don't even have any audit procedures or anything in place to do a personal property audit at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Okay. Okay. Anybody else wish to talk about House Bill 4, property tax refund program? From the public? Did you come on up? Thanks for sticking around. Oh, I didn't. Well, you're here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not even sure how coherent this is going to be,
That's okay.
but I represent, my name's Donna Castle, and I represent AARP. We do support House Bill 004. However, I was encouraged to come and tell my story because I was rejected for this the last time I applied. And, oh, I have to catch my breath. So I'm here just to tell you my story, and because I'm sure there's other people that are involved just like I am. I came to Wyoming in 1975, bought my home in 1976, and my husband and 2 sons and I, we came, and to make a long story short, he died in '89. And so I received inheritance from that, one of which was the house that I live in now. And we bought it at $31,000. Currently is listed for $289,000 or $298. I don't know. I don't have my notes with me. I ran. Anyway, so I got that money, and because it wasn't earned, I had to invest it so that I could finish raising my sons and build a home and keep a home. And so then in 2010, my mother died and left me another inheritance. By that time, I was 67 years old. And consequently, the amount of money that I had saved was in excess of what the amount is for being eligible for this, what do you call it, bill. And so personally, I feel that if we are looking for more people to take advantage of this bill so that they can get a greater tax break, and they're still working, they still have income, they have IRAs or 401ks if they're lucky. But people like me who have only inherited money didn't have any place to put it. And so I feel like we're being penalized by having in excess of the $150,000 insurance. But if I didn't have, my income is less than 1/2 of the state, of the Laramie County household income, okay? So I was wondering if there was anything that could be done for those of us who have inherited, whose houses are 10 times more in value than they were, but we have this reserve, and that's all we have. And I was wondering if there was any possibility of increasing the amount that a person could have, so that because of my low income, that I can continue to stay in my house. That was it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Pointed out a key loophole in this.
Pardon me?
You pointed out a key loophole in this statute. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We will work on that. Thank you very much. That's why we're here, guys. Okay. Any more public comment? Okay, I don't see any. Anybody on Zoom, Clayton? Nobody on Zoom? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment on House Bill 4, Property Tax Refund Program. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by French. I'll second. Any discussion? Discussion, amendments? Yeah, Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this property tax stuff and these refunds, I mean, I'm first to sympathize with people that are getting pushed out with inflation and just supply and demand issues. We have to be careful. We're looking at a lot of Band-Aids here, and it gets messy. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. Keeping it simple, I mean, maybe just, we need to go down the path of getting rid of property taxes completely. I mean, everything's becoming arbitrary and capricious with the taxing authorities, with homes and land, and it's just going all over the place. I'm as confused as about everybody in the body. Whether we want to move this forward to have a bigger debate upstairs, maybe is the right thing to do. We're starting to stack things on top of each other, getting layered. There's some better bills out there that maybe will take care of some of these issues on this House Bill 4, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this. I mean, it just looks like it keeps growing and growing. We need to go back to 2020 when we're really tightening our belts, but we got to get the money back to the taxpayers somehow on these inflated values. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Anybody else? Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I really don't think this one's layering on top of it. I think this is it's a refund program. It's not a tax relief program. So I think they can go, as the director mentioned, they can go hand in hand with some of the other bills that we have. I think there's some issues we have with this one. I really think we ought to push it out of here and let the body speak to it. I know that your subcommittee worked on this, of which I was one of them, and we do have money in the governor's budget set aside to expand this program. It helped a lot of people in the past, and I just think it's going to help folks going into the future. So there's probably, bugs and issues and things, administrative kinks we have to work out, but I think we need to continue looking at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator McEwen. Sure.
Will you please come up?
Director Henson? Sure.
I want to make sure I have my brain wrapped around this. And it's pretty foggy right now, so if I sound like a moron, I apologize ahead of time. As I understand how this program works, I pay my taxes to you, and then I apply for the refund. And then I get the refund back? Or does the refund just go directly on my tax bill? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much, Senator. So property taxes are paid to the local county treasurer. And the local county treasurer then distributes all the property taxes to all the entities that rely on those funds to provide services. What this program does is allows that taxpayer to come in, prove their income for the prior year and prove that they paid their property taxes for the prior year, and then allows the Department of Revenue to send them a check. The check comes from the state general fund. The state general fund receives 0 property tax dollars. So this is where the legislature, the governor on the 20 million, has said, we're going to take out of state general fund money and we're going to give that money back to the taxpayer. It holds the taxing entities harmless. They're going to get all of their money. But what that also needs clarified is that $20 million that the governor has in the budget, that's for the program as it exists today. There's a fiscal note on this expansion of the program. So for 2025 fiscal year, which is 2024 taxes, there's a fiscal note of about $1.5 million. 1.56 for the following year, 1.6. So just knowing that if the expansion of this program is approved, that there needs to be another dollar amount that's added to what's currently in the budget.
Follow up?
How hard would it be to just credit them? They come in, they apply for the refund, they show their Trix box top and their decoder ring, and they get approved. Would it be hard just to apply it to next year's taxes? And then obviously the general fund would still fill it, but to me, it seems like it would be a lot easier just to apply a credit immediately and not worry about sending checks out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, again, Senator McEwen, 2 different entities. The counties who are collecting the money, they don't have any money set aside to go ahead and pay this. So I think we just would have to rethink the entire process because we're using, for example, let's talk about 2023 property taxes and what we would be doing in April of 2024. We know what property taxes, what the median residential property tax amount was in 2023. We know what they paid. Now, if we were to switch that and say, okay, now we're going to start this year, and I'm trying to figure out by that first Monday in June deadline for applying for this, that we're really talking about 2024 taxes, current year taxes, and a credit that you can apply towards 2024 taxes. We don't know what 2024 taxes are until tax roll, which is in September. Mill levies aren't set to August. So in that time period, we don't know what the amount is that can credit. And we haven't got an application yet. Do we talk about 2023 income to qualify for a refund of 2024? There's just some moving parts here that absolutely can be addressed, but not in a short amount of time. I just think that we need to give it some due diligence and we don't have any unintended consequence. And like I stated, there's no doubt in my mind, there are folks that get their 2020, they'll get their 2023 refund by September 30th when we have finished cutting all those checks. They'll use that money to pay the first half of their 2024 tax, which is due November 10th. There was reasons for the timelines that were established.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good question. Senator Pappas?
What impact administratively is this on your department for the work required to figure out who gets a refund and then cut the checks? And you had mentioned earlier that maybe you were going to have an ask for us. Is this for additional FTEs or something, a manpower to do this?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Pappas. So the legislature gave us one staff person last session, one FTE. to work on this program. But I can tell you from that April to the end of September time period, there's not a person in the administrative services that is not answering a phone, processing an application, to include, at certain times, I've had mineral tax division employees, I've had property tax division employees, I've had me keying in applications. We try to meet those deadlines, so it is a significant impact to the staff. What I had asked for is 2 temporary full-time positions. We'll hire from a temp agency for 6 months for that April to September 30th time period. And the cost of 2 employees, full-time temporary employees, would be approximately $60,000 that I'm asking for a fiscal request. And then plus $10,000 to get the programming updated if this were to pass, because we anticipate 30% more applications should these 2 additional tiers be added.
Follow-up? So you asked for those 2 temps in this year's budget? You went to the JC and requested it?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Pappas, we put it in the fiscal note that would be considered. And I will say that Representative Storer asked for $70,000 on second or third reading in the other house, and it was denied. So at this point, I don't have any additional funding for programming, nor do I have additional funding for staff.
Follow-up? So the 2 temporary staff members, that was just for the program as it sits now and not the expanded program?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I did not ask for additional in our regular budget in hopes that we could accomplish what needs done. I only asked for the temporary staff money as a result of adding these 2 tiers.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. And we do have an appropriator sitting behind you taking notes. Wait, before you leave, old Frenchie's got something.
Yeah,
for you.
hold up, hold on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, help me get this straight in my mind. You said if this passes in the new tiers and the increase in applications, that it would take an additional, if I heard this right, 1.6 million or somewhere in there above and beyond the governor's 20 million? Is that correct?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. The 20 million is only the estimated cost of this program as it exists on the books today.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll add, I got a new updated note from Budget Fiscal. Based on this engrossed copy, it looks like it's gonna be 1.1 million in 25, 1.2 million in 26, because I think they they knocked it down a little bit. So it's a $2.3 million appropriation plus what you're asking for.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe that that update was based on the amendments. You may recall when the Joint Revenue Committee sponsored this, there were several tiers up to 175% of household median income. So I think that's the reason for the drop, is now we're at a top of 165%.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. That last 2022 8,800 refunds, and you said there was about 9,000 that applied. What was the total amount of those refunds? Do you have that number?
I do have that number. It's a little over 8.2 million.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Thanks. Good stuff. Man, we're working you. Sorry. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Now, back on the bill. Got all our questions answered. Do we have any amendments? Any amendments? I'm looking at a third reading amendment here and, oh, yes, Senator Pappas.
Yeah, you know what, I would like to, I don't know what the language would be, but I would like to put money back in to make their department whole again for the I believe the number was $70,000. So if there was a House amendment that failed. I'm assuming that language is available. I would move that and put it back in here.
Okay. Let me see what that amendment was. Okay, I see it. Store amendment on second reading. All right, that's the motion.
I don't know that we need to read it, right?
Yeah, it's pretty long. Clayton, do you have it in front of you, the store amendment from second reading?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two parts to it.
Or we could defer to we could re-refer this to the appropriations and they could,
Well, it would have to be referred. If we
well, it's going
pass
to be,
this,
yeah, regardless. So they can do our work for us if we want them to.
actually, we would have to pass the standing committee amendment first, wouldn't we, on the floor?
Correct.
And then re-refer it, I think.
We could just put a dollar amount of 70,000 or whatever number we pick and then
So if the
refer it to appropriations and they will fine tune it.
Okay. If we
So we
pass
don't-
it, I don't know if you guys want to pass it, so.
Oh, have a little faith in us.
I just want to make it.
Okay, well, you've heard the motion. Any more discussion on it? Seeing none. Oh, discussion. Senator McEwen.
If we're gonna do this, I'd like to see us do it as a first reading amendment instead of trying to patch it together down here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, duly noted. Senator Pappas?
Well, I don't think it's patched together. The amendment is already out there. And I would really like it to go to appropriations right away instead of dragging it out.
Yeah.
My preference.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think it's typical process for the standing committee amendment to put in a placeholder and then kick it to appropriations. They'll kick it back before committee of the whole, but we can do it any which way, but let's dispense of this amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That amendment's been adopted. Committee, any other amendments? Any other amendments? All right, I'll go for it. I'm looking at this third reading amendment from the House that puts in the audit, ropes in the Department of Audit. I think it's just, I think we can probably live without it. I will propose deletion of House third reading amendment number 1. Just delete that entirely. Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That amendment's been adopted. Back on the bill. What else I'm looking at my notes here. Page 2, page 3, looks good. Page 4. Committee, are you comfortable with what the House did with, as far as eliminating a couple of the tiers? Tightens it up. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7, and then page 8, effective immediately. Okay, hearing no other amendments, we'll call for the question.
Senator French,
Aye.
Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator McEwen,
Aye.
Senator Pappas,
Aye.
Chairman Beitman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, there are 5 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you, Clayton. That has passed Senate revenue. Okay, last bill of the night. House Bill 45, we're back on House Bill 45. It is my understanding we took public comment while I was gone. And anybody that was not here at noon that wishes to testify, that didn't get a chance to testify, now is your chance. We'll open up public comment for House Bill 45, property tax exemption, residential structures and land. Some of you might not have had a chance, seeing none. Is there anybody on Zoom, Clayton, that didn't get it? Nobody on Zoom, okay. Okay, public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Pappas. Second by French. Any discussion on the bill? Amendments, we have one, Senator Pappas.
Yes, I'd like to take care of the clerical amendments. So on page 2, line 19, after the word value, strike the comma. And on page 5, line 13, strike the comma again after the word value.
Page 5, you lost me there.
Page 5 on line 13, after the word value,
Okay,
strike that comma as well. So it's page 2, line 19, page 5, line 13. Remove both commas.
pesky little commas. Discussion, well, commas can cost you a lot of money. Any discussion on the commas? Hearing none, question being called, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed? That has been adopted.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Pappas.
I'd like to make another amendment on page 4, line 22. Striking the words beginning in tax year. Strike all of line 23. On page 5, strike all of line 1, 2, and 3.
Any discussion? You know what we're doing? Any discussion? Anybody have any questions on that? Senator French?
I'll just ask Senator Pappas to explain that a little more in depth, please, what that's doing.
Senator Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the discussion we had, there was issues with actually the words on line 1 makes this unworkable with the associated improved land, and so we were going to strike that. But then, if you recall the discussion that where it says in beginning in tax year 22, single-family residential structures shall be included, and so on, it's really not necessary to have that in there. I know the department had I believe you had an issue with it, but I think the thinking was that it was really not, it doesn't do anything. So that's my intent for removing it. If you need a little more explanation, we could have the folks come back and explain it better than I can.
Representative Craig, why don't you take a stab at it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to do so. So that language that Senator Pappas suggested be stricken was a third reading amendment on our side, on the floor. And at the time, I think we all thought it was a great idea. It really, what the purpose of the amendment was to add outbuildings, whatever size, to, as long as they were associated with the residential property. So we're thinking like a garage or like a lawnmower shed, things like that was what we talked about. And that was the intent of the amendment. I think, and we all thought it was a good idea at the time. Of course, it was a late third reading amendment. None of us had really the time to go talk to our good assessors or the good folks at the department. And I still think it's a good idea. I'm just not sure we can actually, in principle, I'm just not sure it's that easily administered by both the assessors and the department. And so I think, and on top of that, I mean, after I read through it, after we've had time to digest it a little bit, a few days have gone by, there's issues with it, and it's creating some inconsistencies within the bill. So my thought was, and I agree with the senator, it's probably a good idea to strike that language. If you want to try to work something out where you include these outbuildings or other structures, give with the department, bring a first, second, or third reading amendment on the floor that doesn't mess up the structure of the bill, work with them, and because the way it's written now, it does not work probably. Whether that's a good idea to include structures or not is also probably a great debate on the floor. It passed on our end, but I think when we did it, probably, we didn't do it the right way, and I'll take blame for some of that. It wasn't my amendment, but I probably should have caught that it was gonna cause issues and fixed it, but I did not, so hopefully that provides a little color, Senator French.
Thank you, Representative Crago. Senator Pappas has
And
a question.
I believe it really increases administrative costs for the department.
Representative?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, it does. Because with just the home and just the land, they can do that. Those really don't change that much year to year. They're doing that through the system. I mean, that's sort of the beauty of this particular bill is they don't have to go out and check stuff, and no one has to come in and apply for anything. The outbuildings get a lot more complicated. For example, if you own a ranch, are those outbuildings, is a barn included in that, or is that part of your ag operation? Is that a non-residential structure, et cetera? I mean, those things, is it both, right? Those things get a lot more complicated. And after talking to the folks at the department, I realized the error of not making that more clear, or maybe it's complicates it so much it's not worth including in the bill at all. And I think that's a good discussion for all of you to have when you get it up. If it gets out of here and you get it to the floor, I think that would be a good discussion to have with maybe the director prior to trying to do that.
And Representative, we talked earlier and you mentioned with this out of there, this could be done with a keystroke in the CAMA system, correct? And with this in there, there may have to be people coming out to the property to assess these and look at these. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. I mean, keystroke might be oversimplifying, but it's, I wish it was that easy, but it will not require our local assessors going out and checking stuff or requiring anybody reporting anything into them. They're gonna be able to look in the system and see what's on file already.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity on that. All right. So we're on the amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? Question being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? That amendment has been adopted. Yeah, Senator Ide.
Thank you, Chairman
Find some
Bidman.
commas down there.
Earlier today, we had discussion on, the 5% cap. I always like to index it, something commercial real estate business I'm in, typically the negotiations go, 3% or the lesser of 3% or CPI, just to gives the customer the benefit of the doubt when you do that. In this case, it would be the property owner, residence owner. I understand the testimony on the negative reasons for indexing it and what calendar year or fiscal year do you pick so you have a date, you can go to the government CPIU index and see how to apply that. With that, I think I would like to propose an amendment to lower that to 3%. And I've studied it a lot in my business, and outside of the last 3 or 4 years, the average has been about 3% over the last 30 years on CPIU. If you look at the government numbers, there was a couple of years where it was actually negative. Back in the great financial crisis, I think in 2020, there was only 2, maybe 3 negative CPIUs. But for sake of discussing it too much, I proposed an amendment just to change that 5% to a 3% cap. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator. Any discussion? We're good. Discussion. Senator Pappas.
I personally am not in favor of creating a variable number in there. I'd rather have just a flat percentage that's constant every year, and we know what it is. It gets confusing a lot of times when you're tying it to a percentage that's always changing based on external reviews from whoever does the CPI, but I just think that a flat percentage is good. I think 5% is a good number. You know, we had testimony that you know, our rates have been between or the increases have been between 5 and 7%, or between 4 and 7%. Historically over the last 20 years, and so I think 5% is a good number. So I just can leave it at that, personally.
Thank you, Senator. Any other? Yeah, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure I understood the amendment. I thought as he brought the amendment, it was just 3%. He didn't have any index in it.
I thought you were tying.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay.
The amendment, I'll just restate the amendment. The amendment is to, on page 20, strike 5% and change it to 3%.
I think on, actually on page 2 on line 20 as well.
Yep. Page 2, line 20. 5% to 3%. That's what we're discussing.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Senator Pappas.
Ignore my first part of the testimony, or my comments, but my second part still stands. I think 5% is still a better number.
All right.
Trying to set you up.
It's getting late. Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Thank you for that clarification. Oh, Representative Crago, why don't you come up?
Mr. Chairman, just so we don't have conflicting numbers in there, if you are gonna do the amendment, it needs to be changed in 2 places because there's 2 different exemptions.
Oh, that's right.
And so one is on page 5 on line 14,
Yep.
and the other one is on page 2, line 20.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good catch. Clayton, did you catch that? Oh, all right. We ready to vote? Okay, question being called. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. That motion has passed. That amendment has been adopted. Any other amendments, committee? Hearing none. Question being called. Clayton, please call the roll.
Senator French.
Aye. Excuse me, aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Senator McEwen.
Aye.
Senator Pappas.
Aye.
Chairman Beitman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 5 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you, Clayton. Okay, committee, that clears the desk. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody who testified today. Thank you, Department, for coming down again. Appreciate everybody. That'll do it for this Revenue Committee meeting. We are adjourned.